And trade negotiators of US and China are in a huddle in Sweden's capital, Stockholm, for a second day of talks. Both nations had agreed to a trade truce in May for a 90-day period that expires on the 12th of August. The talks lasted nearly 5 hours yesterday. However, no public comments were made on the decision. Both sides could agree to another 90-day tariff pause. It may also pave the way for a one-on-one meeting between President Trump and President Xi. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said he may go to China, but only at the invitation of Xi Jinping. This is the third gathering of the trade teams, with the previous gatherings having taken place in Geneva and London. The markets are closely watching whether officials can solidify their recent gains, such as easing of curbs around semiconductors and rare earth metals. The talks come at a time when tariffs are looming over other countries that have not reached a trade deal with Trump. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has said that except for China, U.S. will have decided tariffs for the rest of the world by the 1st of August. To discuss the potential outcome of the U.S.-China talks, I'm now joined by Jacob Kirkegaard, Senior Fellow at Bruegel. Jacob, thank you very much for joining us. Do you believe that China has greater leverage in these negotiations happening at Stockholm?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. The fact that the president of the United States expresses his willingness to go to China shows as much. And I think we saw earlier this year that China has what I think you can call escalation dominance through their control over critical raw materials, and also the basic fact that the United States was so dependent on goods imports from China that you were literally at risk of canceling Christmas in April if there had been no sort of unfolding of what appeared to be a bilateral trade embargo between the two. So yes, absolutely. In my opinion, in these negotiations, China is sitting at the end of the table.
Right. I would also like to ask you, what realistically can we expect from these negotiations at Stockholm? Expectations overall seem to be low. At the most, do you expect an extension of the tariff truce?
Yes, I mean, I think that is the strong base case at this moment. I mean, August 9th is rapidly approaching, and obviously, as you know, the Trump trade team have a lot of other deals to worry about in the coming days. So yes, I think a postponement, another 90 days or however long they can decide, is a strong base case. I think it's also very clear that for the Chinese government to agree to a one-on-one meeting between Donald Trump and President Xi Jinping, they don't want to have any surprises. They want to have a heavily scripted meeting. They want to have some concrete deliverables from that meeting. And that is likely to take some time. We will have to see. One other concessions that the Trump administration has made is to begin to roll back some of the technology export controls that the US has previously imposed on China. So a lot of things are in the air. But certainly for a bilateral presidential summit to take place, everything needs to be, if you like, decided in advance.
Right. I would also like to ask you, Donald Trump wants deals to be black and white. He wants unprecedented access for American goods. He wants markets to be completely opened up. He has achieved that with Vietnam, Indonesia, Japan and European Union to a great extent as well. He wants that with India too. Can he get that, or can he expect that kind of relationship with China?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I will say that I think it is true that Donald Trump has said that, there's unfettered access by American goods to some of these other countries that he negotiated with. I think if you ask the government of Japan or the European Commission or the governments in Vietnam, etc., they will beg to disagree with that. So we shouldn't necessarily take, Donald Trump's rhetoric literally. I don't think there's any doubt that the deals that he has negotiated, most recently with Europe, have been imbalanced in nature in favor of the United States, but unfettered access, definitely not. And I don't think he's going to be able to get that from many other trading partners because, again, every country has its domestic politics, and simply giving in to the demands of Donald Trump, not only is it potentially bad economics, but it certainly often will be bad politics for the government in question.
Right. Just to ask you, what do you think China would be seeking from these talks? Because they have negotiated with Donald Trump in 2017, in his first term. There were trade tensions then as well. So this is a stronger China, a China which understands how Donald Trump operates. And we're also seeing that when it comes to Donald Trump, his tariff threats will soon lose steam after the 1st of August.
Yeah, I mean, I think basically what China wants is two things. I certainly believe they would want to some of the tariffs reduced. They're still, depending on the specific category of goods, 55% or sometimes more in place on Chinese exports. They would want that reduced down towards the 25 or 15% that other trading partners have recently received. And then the specific issue of technology controls. We saw recently that Donald Trump approved the sale of the NVIDIA H20 chip in the Chinese market, but there's a lot of other US technology controls or export controls that prevents Chinese companies from accessing the most up-to-date advanced US technologies. They will want a lot of those lifted as well. So it's tariffs and it's technology controls, in my opinion, that are the key demands on the Chinese side.
Right. You know, the United States has a long-standing goal, and the long-standing goal is to rebalance China from exports to more domestic consumption for US goods. Can this administration achieve that?
No, they cannot. I think we should, however, be clear that the Chinese government itself has expressed the hope or the intention to promote more domestic-led consumption-led growth for a more, if you like, balanced Chinese domestic economy, so that it is no longer as dependent on external demand as exports as we have seen in recent years. So this is not necessarily a US demand, it's actually the stated goal of the Chinese government itself. However, it is also very clear that there is great difficulty for the Chinese government to implement these targets in China. It is very expensive to promote household consumption in China. It is very politically difficult to roll back subsidies to export-oriented industries, etc., even if you are a autocratic leader like Xi Jinping. He also has to contend with a lot of vested interest in the Chinese economy. So I think at best, the shift towards a more consumption-led growth model in China will be very gradual over the next many, many years.
Right. And my final question to you would be, to what extent will this lead to decoupling of trade between US and China? We saw US imports going up last year. The US trade deficit with China has gone up as well, which means that the overall goal of reducing your reliance on the Chinese economy, that hasn't been achieved. But if the tariffs continue at this level, do you expect decoupling and a decline in imports from China to US?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that if we continue to have tariffs frequently above 50% on direct Chinese imports to the or US imports from China, then absolutely we will see a reduction in those bilateral trade flows. In fact, the most recent data suggests that this is already happening. What we are not likely to see, however, because of the continuing very, very large US federal government deficits, etc., is a material decline in the overall US trade deficit. So the real question from a trade policy point of view is whether or not the policies of the Trump administration will succeed in preventing sort of transshipment of Chinese goods through third countries. If we look at the trade deal that Donald Trump
Right.
struck with Vietnam, it was 40% on such transshipment. We don't know whether they will succeed or not. But I think what is clear is that there will continue to be a very large amount of goods from China available in the US market.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, Jacob Kirkegaard, with your view on the ongoing US-China trade talks in Stockholm. A quick look now at the other headlines. Military commanders